everyone, this is Sneha Mahant Mehta. I'm currently the acting advertising director at Vogue India. Vogue is a part of the Condé Nast Group, which is one of the largest publishing houses in the world. Vogue is a global leader when it comes to women's fashion and lifestyle, and again has presence across many countries around the world. I basically handle the commercial aspect of the business. So it's really the business of fashion and lifestyle. And in my role currently, I have the opportunity to work with a number of different brands, different categories ranging from premium to super premium to luxury. And we are able to provide some very relevant solutions across the different platforms that Vogue is present on in the country. So really on the business aspect of things. I think I always had an academic bend of mind. I was always a good student in school, graduation, and then eventually got my MBA degree, which was in marketing. I think it was not really choice, but by chance that my first placement after MBA was with a fashion house, which is the Madura Group, a part of the Aditya Birla fashion and retail arm. And very early on in my career, I had the opportunity to work with some really, large and very successful brands. So I started off with the Collective, where again we worked with almost, I think, 30, 40 international brands which were coming into India for the first time. Post that, I continued within the group to work with brands like Louis Philippe. So I think I was lucky to get that kind of exposure to work with some of the brightest minds in the fashion and retail industry in the country. And it was also a good time to be a part of that industry because there was a lot of change happening and happening really fast. So like I said, a lot of learning there. And then post that, while I did experiment with sort of different roles, but I was always on the marketing side of things and gave me a lot of exposure into media. After that, so I was based in Bangalore for a couple of years. And then when I moved back to Bombay, after a few years, I had the opportunity to join Condé Nast. And I started with GQ, which was also being launched at that point in time. So again, literally saw the brand grow from a small entity to something which has really become really large and is leading again the men's fashion and lifestyle industry in India. From there on, I think I have always remained very engaged because the kind of exposure that this role gives me, I think, is immense. So and I think for me, prior to that also, like when I was young, my mom was in the fashion business. So I was always sort of helping her, learning from her, went on to do a fashion design degree myself. But like I said, I think more than creative, I was more on the business aspect of things, and I pursued that. And so far so good, it's worked out well. In my current role, it's almost like you're handling marketing for 100 odd different brands from different categories, right? So it could be fashion, beauty, cars, interior brands, and so many more. And you're constantly interacting with the marketing teams, the brand teams, and understanding what the requirement of the brand is and then trying and providing solutions for them. So without spending the money, you are, working with other brands' budgets and trying to give them the biggest bang for their buck. I think that is the most exciting part of my job, that I'm no longer restricted to one brand or one category. I'm able to work across the board, with different kinds of companies. I think that was many years ago. Bangalore and Gurgaon in India still sort of remain the hubs for fashion because some of the larger groups are based in these two cities. And of course, down south, we have the biggest manufacturing facilities in our country. For me personally, moving to Bangalore was was a very different kind of experience. I was, of course, very young. It was the first time I was living out of home, setting up house by yourself. I had great friends who helped me through it. And of course, I always enjoyed work. But after a few years, the reason I decided to come back to Bombay, because Bombay is ultimately home. This is, where my family is. This is where I've grown up. And, needless to say, Bombay is a place that a lot of people aspire to live because our career opportunities and prospects are really fantastic. So I was happy to come back home. Now, of course, I think the world has got even smaller in the last decade or so. So, traveling to Bangalore or Delhi for that matter is almost a given thing. You're making a number of trips in a given month. Of course, now because of COVID, we're doing everything virtually and, we're not traveling at all. But I think that just became a part and parcel of life. And I think that's true for any young professional at this point. We all have to be mobile. We almost have a suitcase packed at all times because you can just hop onto a flight and be where you need to be. So I think, travel is something that also excites me. I love traveling. So I was very happy to go wherever I needed to meet my clients. It might not be the right thing for me to say, but I'm honestly not a very brand conscious person, so to say. I think I have an overdose of brands that I work with, and for me, I think comfort and convenience above everything else. But Gucci as a brand is somebody that I admire, and Ralph Lauren as a brand is somebody that I admire just because of their style sensibilities and things like that. Yeah. India as a market has very diverse kind of customers or consumers, and their level of exposure to international brands defines to a large extent what they admire and what they consume. So, for instance, if it's somebody who's not traveling out of the country as much, their exposure is sort of limited to what is available around them. And of course, needless to say, Bollywood is a very big influence in our country for fashion specifically. So I think one is that set, which is sort of, getting what is available conveniently to them. And then, of course, there's a second set who travels and who's aware of a lot of brands which are not present in our country as yet. Early on when these international brands, luxury and premium brands started coming to India, I think the marketers at that point realized that we're a very logo forward brand. A lot of people in India like to show off that brand logo, and those were the brands that started doing really well. In fact, Tommy Hilfiger is a great example, especially up north. People love to sort of sport the Tommy flag and things. So I think there are different kinds of consumers, and therefore which brand they sort of find relevance in or something that works for them depends on the kind of experiences that they've had in their life. And then, of course, price. We are a price sensitive market in a lot of ways. One thing that definitely is on our side, that there is a very high intrigue value for everything that comes out of India. I think we rank extremely high in terms of culture. We rank extremely high in terms of talent that we have. The kind of artisans and the kind of work that we are able to do in India is rarely found in other parts of the world. And I think a lot of international brands have taken notice and have started working with such talent from the country. So I definitely believe there is a lot of scope for Indian brands to become big and go international. And there are many designers who have done this very successfully, in the last decade or so. And especially markets like UAE or US, they are very, very pro Indian culture and, the kind of artifacts that come out of our country. even Indian wear, and again Bollywood, So I don't think there's anything easy. But if that is somebody's dream, the opportunities exist, absolutely exist. The new bad word in marketing is ROI, and like every investment you make, marketing is also an investment in terms of sales or brand building and some tangible results to be shown. And marketing as a field is as much a science as it is an art. And the change that I would like to make is don't let yourself become so black and white. Treat it like that art it is, and sometimes you just have to go with the flow. Like you can't literally have a math behind every money or every dollar that you are spending. So I think especially now, post COVID, businesses have gone through a tough time, and therefore all the more marketing budgets are sort of under the scanner or getting slashed. And at the end of the day, it's a chicken and egg story, right? I mean, if your brand is out there, if it's visible, if you're engaging with your consumer, definitely the impact on sales is going to be higher. But if we cut back on marketing, especially at times like this, when businesses need it the most, then it's not going to help. But again, I understand it's a natural reaction, right? When your top line is not doing well, the first thing you want to do is cut back on your cost. It's a great time to be a marketer. The options available to one are so many, and for every sort of price point, right? So you can have 100 rupees and you can put it on a social handle and get that kind of lakhs and reach and impressions that you want. And at the same time, if you have big budgets, then the world is at your feet. You can target to the next level to talk exactly to the person who you believe is your customer. So I honestly think it's a fantastic time to be a marketer. But at the same time, like you rightly said, there is some amount of clutter. It's very important to sort of weigh what the pros and cons are for every platform out there, which is also different for every brand and every category. So to give you an example, as what I would possibly want to do as a fashion brand may be completely different from, say, what an alcohol brand wants to do and can do, or what a beauty brand wants to do. Again, the whole influencer marketing piece is booming, to say the least. And I mean, literally your neighbor could be an influencer now,
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think it's great that it also gives so many more people an opportunity to be a part of the industry. And I think the kind of content that is being created by some very young influencers sitting in remote parts of India, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And there are brands who are ready to invest in such influencers and bloggers and things like that. So I think this is the new age marketing. So the digital age has now sort of taken a back step, and there are numerous ways in which we are able to talk to our consumers. So I think it's a great time. It's become extremely easy to keep yourself sort of up to date with what is going on, not just in your country or your region, but globally. You have access to global best practices, especially for somebody like me who works with an MNC and who is present in so many different countries. We have a very cohesive and a very integrated approach to sharing information and understanding how different markets operate. But I think for anybody, right? I mean, today Google is our best friend, or Alexa is our best friend. We literally have to just ask, and it's all available for us. But I think that is a shift that an individual needs to make sure that you find that kind of time in your busy schedule to sort of focus on self-growth. But if one has decided they want to do that, then there are enough avenues to get information online, offline, in every way. Yeah. So that's the first thing I'm going to say, that it's a no-brainer that for all things fashion, I have a Vogue in my home every month. Apart from that, like I said, there are many other, business publications in India and globally who are able to provide you the kind of information that you're looking for. And if I've not have the time in the morning to go and look up what's happening, whenever time I can, I do browse back and I'll at least get the headlines, and then of course if I find something interesting, I'll read up more about it. Also, again, unique to my line of work, the number of people that we engage with or talk to in one day alone gives you so many different insights, even things which may have not made it, to the newspapers or the tabloids, but is very interesting information to have when you are a part of a particular industry. So I think everything fashion and lifestyle is something that I try and keep myself up to date with. And then, of course, there's other news that one can't avoid. So, yeah. I think the initial days were extremely, extremely hard. We, as a generation, are people who are so used to waking up in the morning, finishing your home chores, taking off for the day, and by the time you come back home, it's almost never sunlight hours anymore. So you're used to that very fast, action-packed kind of day, and I think both my husband and I have careers which are very intensive, so to say. So the initial days were extremely hard. Also, I think in India specifically, we are a spoiled lot, in the sense we have help for a lot of things. In Western countries, that culture doesn't exist as such. But in India, we've sort of grown up with having somebody to take care of your house or do the cleaning and do the cooking and things like that. So that was a rude shock, because while you were at home 24/7, but in that span of time there was so much that you had to take care of, especially when either you're a couple or you're a nuclear family, then everything sort of fell onto you to do. And we have 2 little fur babies as well. So to take care of them, to take care of the house, and at the same time you are still spending that much time at work, because business did become tough for a certain period of time. So I think the initial days were extremely hard, but then as time went by, as humans, you adapt, you find your new routines and your new schedules, and you figure how to manage your life in a better way. So I think over time it did get better, and then of course once the lockdown ended, we managed to get some help back into the house, etc. So now it's pretty much like going to work, except that you don't have to step out. You're still at home, but have a routine in place. I just personally feel it's a little difficult to detach, when you're not going to a different place for work, because then you are connected all the time, and you just have to open your laptop and you can start working, whether it's a Saturday or whether it's 11 o'clock in the night. So I think, again, that is something that I hope I can imbibe soon, where I know that this is a full stop, and now, you need to focus your energies on some other aspects of life as well. So I think, one needs to focus on work-life balance even more so when you're working from home. Must have been much harder, while, even I'm saying it was hard for me, I'm sure it was much harder for a certain set of society who, for instance, didn't have Wi-Fi at home, or didn't have the right, environment to work out of home. So, I mean, I'm sure people have faced many different kinds of challenges. There are people who have young kids in the house and therefore, weren't able to manage with the child and with work. So there are different kinds of challenges. I think it's been hard on everyone. But I think over time, we've all sort of learned how to adapt and how to make it work for ourselves in the best way possible. But as on date, if you ask me, I love working from home. I think in my role specifically, or for any commercial or salesperson out there, it doesn't really matter where you are based, right? You could be anywhere, and be working seamlessly. In fact, even in my role, I have to work with several different departments, whether it's editorial, marketing, finance, my own teams. But I think it's happened very, very seamlessly. The one aspect that I miss the most is interaction with people. So while we are doing all our meetings on Zoom, at some point you miss that human interaction of just being able to walk up to somebody and have a conversation, whether it's in the office or if you're visiting a client. I think that is something that I miss. But I think apart from that, from a workflow perspective, I think we as a company have done a very, very good job. I'm based in Bombay currently, and the traffic situation in Bombay is really bad. Although the actual distance between home to office is not that much, but because of the traffic, I'll end up spending hours to and fro, and then the exhaustion that comes along with it, and so I think all those aspects I love, that I don't have to get stuck in traffic the first thing in the morning and things like that. Yeah, it's scary. The numbers that we're seeing in Bombay again. We as a family are still staying indoors as much as possible, only stepping out when it's absolutely necessary. And I think there's a lot that you can do from home also, but there's certain things which are unavoidable, and you need to step out for that. But I think in general, people need to be a lot more careful. I think take whatever precautions are necessary. I think, at least I'm told that I come across as a very calm and a very composed person. But actually, it's just the opposite. I'm a very paranoid and very easily, can be stressed very, very easily. But yeah, I think that is something most people wouldn't know about me. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else. If I wasn't in the industry that I am in today, which I actually love, I would probably do something in the space of travel, because I love traveling, and luckily I found a partner who loves traveling as much as me, and we are constantly trying to be on the move and explore different kinds of places in India, outside of India. So I'd love if I had a career in travel, which for me then could be work and pleasure at the same time. And apart from that, I think the last time we spoke, I was telling you how I am an obsessive animal lover, and I have 2 fur babies at home currently. But I really hope, even now, although I'm able to do things in a smaller way, but I hope as time goes by, I'm able to contribute and do lots more for animals, in my lifetime. So. Everything and nothing, actually. So touch wood, I do not have any issues falling asleep. I think there's a certain level of exhaustion by the time you hit your bed in the night. Mental fatigue, physical fatigue, all of that. I try not to worry about too many things, but one constant worry in my mind is my mom. I think she's the only one that I worry about so much. So I lost my dad about 5 years ago, and now my mom lives by herself. So she's my number one worry point. Although there's absolutely no need for me to worry, because she can manage herself and can manage everything else around her. But that's one person. Yeah. To be very honest with you, Danish, there are days where you feel extremely inspired and where you feel like you can conquer the world, and there's so much that you want to do. And then, there are days where you feel like you're very content with what you have and, what you're doing. And now you want to do things which give you more joy and more time for yourself and your family. And I think COVID especially has made us realize how important it is to nurture those relationships that matter to you, whether it's, your parents, your kids, your friends even. So I think it's important to balance it out. It's great to be extremely inspired and motivated, but at the same time, don't lose out on the other aspects of life. I think for me, what gives me great joy is that I've reached where I have in my life with my own sort of will and my own hard work and my own experiences. I think, I'm the first generation in the family who went out and got a professional degree and said, I want to work for a corporate. We, came from business families, both my husband and I. But I think it was a good call, and we feel extremely proud of ourselves. We have the small, joys in life when you're able to do something good for yourself, whether it's a short holiday, whether it's something you buy that you like, or whether it's just finding that time to spend with people you love. But I think that holds true for me. I think I would say slow down. There is the right time and place for everything, and for the different milestones that one sets for themselves in life. Like, stop to smell the roses. I think again, COVID has made us realize how year after year after year went by, and you have faint memory of what you did. That one-off holiday maybe you took, or those one-off moments that you remember, but otherwise it seems like you just got into this sort of rat race and forgot that there's much more to life beyond. So I would definitely say slow down and enjoy yourself, enjoy your journey. Again, a personal sort of life moment, not really professional, but I think the loss of my dad changed me a lot as an individual, and the way I think, and the way I approach life. It was very tough on the family. He was unwell for a long time, and despite that, I don't think you're ever prepared for a situation like that. And for me, for one, I think I was most attached to my father. So that became sort of a defining moment in a lot of ways. There was an overnight maturity, responsibility, all of that came into the way you think and the way you act. So in many, many ways, I think that moment has changed to a large extent the way I think and the way I approach life. I feel like there are enough people who do things for human beings, and it's my genuine appeal for people to do as much as they can for animals, whether it's pet animals or wild animals. I genuinely feel very strongly, and I really hope personally and as a community I'm able to do something meaningful and impactful for animals in the country, in the world. So yeah, and if you can't do anything good, at least don't hurt them. A lot of people compliment me for achieving what I have at a fairly young age. I think that is a huge compliment. There are a number of younger people who reach out on social platforms, etc., to ask you, how you got to where you are, or if you could take the time to have a chat with them and give them some advice. And while I'll be honest, it's not always possible, but wherever possible, I do engage a lot with the younger generations. But I think that's a beautiful compliment. When somebody admires whatever it is that you've done. You might not have done, something which is absolutely wonderful and great, but whatever little achievement, you admire that. I think that is a lovely compliment. So I'm a very family-oriented person. I put family, I think, above everyone and everything else. So my three people would be the three people that I or I think two people I possibly say. One will, of course, be my husband, because, like I told you, we are constantly working, and we are pushing ourselves, and we are pushing ourselves to give ourselves a better life and take care of our families and all of that. But I'd love to have that chance. I think we've not had it in a long time, uh, to have a nice dinner together. And the second would be my dad. Like, hands down, there's nobody else. I think there. I don't think any amount of time will be enough to sort of get over a loss like that. And you always feel like, I wish I had that one last conversation or that one last meeting. And what would I have had I known that this is going to be my last meeting? What would I say to him? So I feel like I would love that chance. While it's a very cliched answer, but I don't think there have been any such failures, so to say. I think there have been just different kinds of experiences, and you sort of learn from those experiences and you move forward. So I don't think anyone should pinpoint things in their lives and say, this was my failure. It's an experience, good or bad or ugly, and then it's more about how you pick yourself up from there, dust yourself off and move on. So that's my approach to life in general. Education is extremely important, not just because it gives you a fancy degree that opens doors for you, but also there's a lot of learning that can happen in classrooms with your peers, with your professors, etc. So one should not pass that off, and study as much as you can. In fact, honestly speaking, given a choice, I'd like to drop everything now and go back to the classroom if I could. So I think, in my mind, education is very important. And then second, as youngsters, as freshers who are sort of getting into the whole corporate world, there's no job which is big or small, So there is try and learn something from everyone and from everything that you do, because at some point in your life, all these experiences start helping you become a better professional and become better at your job. And the third is, I think, in our industry, in the media and advertising space, it's very important to network. You need to know the right people. You need to have relationships, in the right place, because it's a very integrated industry. You're working with so many different kinds of companies and people that it's very important to start building that from a younger days. Like, just to give you an example, there's so many instances where I approach a client and I realize that the person sitting opposite me is somebody who I know from, say 10 years ago or 12 years ago, and has literally seen me as a management trainee and things like that. And those are the best kinds of conversations, because they're so happy to see how you've grown and where you've come, and so I think it's very important to build relationships along the way. That for me personally, it makes me feel happy when I walk out of a place and many years later, if I have to pick up the phone on someone and they're happy to hear from you, I think that's very important. So how mom has been a great inspiration and continues to be that inspiration. I think she can pick me up from any mood that I am in and put me in my happy place again. And likewise, there are some friends in your life who are irreplaceable, who are more than family, and have been through the journey alongside you. So I think I'm blessed to have these kind of people in my life who keep me going constantly. Not all fun and all parties and all glamour and all of that. So while of course there's a lot of that in the industry that I work in, but it's as much hard work, and it's as serious a business as any other. But it's the genuine misconception when people hear that I work for Vogue, or when I used to work for GQ. It's like, oh, you must have the best life, and you get to go to all these fancy do's and meet all these lovely celebrities. And I said, yeah, well, but at the end of the day, that's work for us as well. So that's definitely a myth that I want to bust, that while there is all of that, this is as serious a business as any other. So. Again, a slightly cliched question, but for instance, what here on? So what do you see yourself doing in life here on? Although I don't have an exact answer for that, I really believe you have to take baby steps and day by day. And while it's great to do planning, but all your plans might not always work out. So you have a goal, and you work towards that particular goal, but be prepared for things which you may not have factored for. So I think, yeah, that's something that I would ask myself. Where do you want to go from here? Fairly active on LinkedIn, and I think that's a great platform to sort of engage with like-minded professionals, or the younger set of people who are sort of entering their work life. So absolutely feel free to reach out, drop me a message, and I'm happy to help in whichever way that I can. Make it a better place. In Michael Jackson's words, heal the world. I think it's in our face, and sometimes we're not able to see it even when it's right in front of our eyes. The smaller changes that you bring about in your life, or if you're able to influence people around you to do the right things, which help our environment, which help the human race, which help the animals. But I think whatever it is that one can do to heal the world is what we need to do. I think there's only one way to go, which is upward. There is no scope for people to go in reverse. So like I said, everybody has different kinds of experiences in their life. There are good days, there are bad days, there are terrible days. But it's all up to you on how you deal with it, you handle it, and you move on. And this is both personally as well as professionally. I think there are setbacks in everybody's life, but it's all up here to decide how you want to take that in your stride and move forward. So I think that's the only way. For me, there's no other way. This advice is a blanket advice for young men and women. Don't let the world, the society define who you are as an individual, as a personality. Work towards what you want your life to be. There is no shortcut to success. You have to work hard. Do something that you are passionate about. So it's not just work, or it's not just a job, or it's not just a business. It's something that you enjoy doing. And I think when you're doing something you enjoy doing, then there is no limit in terms of the success you can get, or the achievements that you can have. So define your own goals and work hard to get them.